Thanks for this opportunity. Thanks, Bruce and Colin. I have to say on Valentine's Day that partnerships are great. I'd be under a lot of pressure if I didn't say that. But I'm also going to say what we all know, that is partnerships are difficult. It's interesting, we've heard a lot for a long time in research, the importance of partnership. We used to hear about publish or perish. Well, I guess we still have that hanging around, but partnership or perish has been increasingly an issue for us all. And I guess the thing we need to think about is, what does it take to sustain our own personal partnerships? And so how the business of partnership work is never finished. While we can build trust and so on, it is the constant work. And of course, it is also the work that has to push beyond disappointment. And so I guess one of the things about this is why I bother, and for all the reasons you've been hearing, the importance of upscaling, the importance for us of stepping together. There are a whole range of choreographies all of us have to undertake. Sometimes we all need to kick together in the chorus line to be seen, and increasingly I think, as Bruce mentioned before, that 1,000 Flowers era, when we're each in our little place doing the thing that we like, I'm afraid that starts to look awfully like what I'd call a hobby. It becomes a hobby. And I know that there are people who want to pursue research as a hobby, but if we want to do research that matters, that is the issue. And how do we do that now? As funding has shifted, as a whole range of tectonic plates have moved, then we have to move too. I think it's just been interesting in terms of, we think about the partnerships, the new partnerships. One new partnership is with new people. And I've always made the claim that when you have a room like this where people have come together who never have been together before, that is a sign of potential productivity. That is a sign of the possibility, the conditions of possibility for new partnerships. So there's a range of people, and I think we all understand now that expertise resides in a whole range of places. It doesn't just reside in universities. And of course, policy implementation expertise doesn't just reside in governments and so forth. So there is something to gain from that. So, but the issue then of people partnerships will continue to be issues that we have to work through as we have to learn about each other more. There's also disciplinary partnerships, and one of the things I think that's been a myth about collaboration that we really have to knock on the head is the idea that if you collaborate, it means that you sort of wash out your discipline. So that you know, in the spirit of holding hands with somebody, that you are less theoretical or less informed or less rigorous in your own scholarship. And I do think there was almost a sense that's what we needed from you if you're a sociologist, that you're going to go and dance with the devil's psychologists, so you better get off your high sociological horse to do that, you know. I mean, we've got to get beyond that, and I think many of us are starting to understand that while work has to be epistemologically and ontologically coherent, we need to really invest in the idea of how rigorous disciplinary work comes together. And I'm seeing already, and I know there are a lot of people in this room who are going about the business of sharing expertise, but building their expertise. I think of people like, for example, Karen Thorpe here, who could well have stayed in the very precise scientific area that she's been in, but who's brought a number of things to the table. We've been through a time in educational research where there's been somewhat a de-sciencing of research. And we rushed to that, I suppose, the caring and sharing, the more therapeutic thing, putting the human face on, even being, as Karen puts it, somewhat afraid of numbers, suspicious of numbers. And I guess that her delightful paper about big girls aren't afraid of numbers, I guess there's a signalling of the need to re-science educational research in a way that is powerful but also sensitive to that historical time where we have questioned big science. We have questioned the white coat clinic. I think quite rightly. There are a lot of good critiques made, but what we need to do now is say, what's the best thing? How can we sensitively, carefully re-science in the interests of hitting the big issues, which we have to show that, have to acknowledge that we haven't done. So I think that there is an issue around disciplinary partnerships that make sense, and how we work through them in the next couple of days, without trying to pretend we don't have a discipline, or without coming out the top and deciding finally our discipline alone will save the world. Hopefully that's when nobody is thinking. The third thing, of course, is about the question of method, and again, these two things go together. So that we increasingly look in terms of multi-method and how will that happen. We have had in education internationally for some time what we might call a qualitative hegemony. For all the things that, and all the stones that we've thrown at the white coat scientist, for all of our concerns about the fact that human beings are being overlooked in our endless measurement and number crunching, what we've been unable to do, I think, is have that happy marriage and to think about how those two might be mutually informative. Now, most of us, I think, are getting the message now about mutually informative, about the ways in which we do those two things. That people who do qualitative work are not insensitive to quantitative, and don't need to demonise quantitative. In fact, it's not helpful to do that. What we need to do, therefore, is to again think about, as I spoke about last night, what sort of story can be supported by a statistic, what sort of statistic needs a story, and that when we do bring a story and a statistic together very powerfully, that is, as we've been told by our Harvard friends, is the most powerful way to influence. And if we're going to do the influencing that Colin and Bruce have talked about, we need to be smart about method. And we need to say, what are the lessons we've learned? Can we enter a new historical time in education research where instead of shadow boxing with the disciplines that we don't work in, or instead of demonising government, instead of doing these things, that of course we need to continue to be critical, but we need to be smart about the way we move. I guess the point there is that, as our DBC would say, there are two sorts of research that matter, and they aren't quantitative or qualitative. They are research, well, two sorts of research, he says, research that matters and research that doesn't. For most of us, we haven't got the time or the will to invest in research that doesn't matter. And there are a lot of ways, of course, we could define what it means to do research that matters. And you will hear in this agenda that we're wanting to work with and for people, and with and for marginal people, whom we have not served very well, despite a lot of rhetoric about sharing and caring. So I guess for me, the excitement is that we should all now have the disposition to learn about new partners, new disciplines, new methods, and the way in which those things can come together to give us the best value add that we can. It's terrific to work with smart people. It's terrific to work with so much energy, despite the fact that a lot of us are so stressed by the ways in which our own institutions require a great deal of us. Great to have this opportunity to step outside that. I know that all of our emails are building up as we're sitting here, but we just have to put that aside for 1 minute because that's endless. So I wish you well in your work to build those partnerships and to build meaningful research that's going to give us all the value add that we're so much seeking. So have a good 2 days. Thank you.